So when you open the bale, you can definitely see it's a bit of mixed grass. And so this right here is orchard grass. I think this is just a mix of orchard grass and alfalfa, but it's very yellow, so it was probably left out too long when it was drying out. But I'm only seeing, so this is only orchard grass that I'm seeing. There's a little bit of clover in it, which clover actually can cause horses to salivate an extensive amount because of the microorganisms in it. They have some clover, depending on where it grows, it might have some kind of like fungus in it, and the microorganisms in the fungus cause the horses to salivate more. All right, pause it. So this is a section from the bigger bale. Again, it's much bigger than the last one, but you can tell because of it's packed really tight. But what I'm finding is it's actually a little moist inside the bale. And what I do is I don't necessarily care that it's, moist. The biggest thing for us is whether or not, it's moldy or not. And so we go through and we analyze like the big flakes, and, we'll tear it apart just to make sure that we're not seeing mold. And on hay, you can see mold. It's kind of like this gray, whitish color, and you'll know that it's mold. But the reason we feed our horses a mixture of orchard grass and other mixed grasses is because it's high in protein. And we, as you can see through some other videos, we have a horse, her name is Grace. She's underweight at the moment, and so we're trying to get her at a decent weight. And so we feed her this on top of alfalfa cubes to try and, get her extra protein, get her some sources of calcium and things like that. The biggest thing, the difference between orchard grass and Timothy hay is really the style of the plant. And so with orchard grass, it has leaves that look like this, and Timothy has more of a leaf that will look kind of like a cattail. Like it has the texture of a cattail, but it doesn't look like that by any means, but it has the texture. So because I mentioned that we feed our one horse alfalfa cubes, I wanted to talk a little bit about that. So alfalfa is a legume feed, and with the cubes, they actually will chop alfalfa up, cube it, it's dehydrated to the point where there's barely any moisture in the cube, if anything at all. And horses love it. There's minimal dust with it. And so what we do to kind of rehydrate it, because as I mentioned with the orchard grass hay, it's got some moisture content in it. But with these, you can see that there's barely any moisture in it at all, if any. And so I take a bucket of water with a strainer in it, and I will put alfalfa cubes in it. I'll let these sit for probably about 6 hours before I feed it to the horse. And let me see if I can get a smaller one to kind of show you what it will do. So when you soak these in water for a long period of time, the cube will actually break down. And so just to kind of show you, when it breaks down, you can see that that's really small pieces of alfalfa. And the reason we wet it down is so our horses don't choke on just a plain dry cube of alfalfa. That can be very dangerous. And so with Grace specifically, we soak these alfalfa cubes, and the strainer, that purpose is so we can just pick it up, drain all the water off, and the alfalfa stays in the strainer. And from there, we can put it in with her grain.